All right, well, we got a jam-packed webinar here today, so we're going to go ahead and kick it off. I appreciate everyone tuning in. You know, there's obviously a lot of challenges with hiring and recruiting. You know, the labor, the workforce. You know, just lots of demand and not enough workers out there to help fulfill all that. So we thought it was appropriate to put this webinar together. I'm excited to be able to introduce you to Paul and to Karel, who are at the Contractor Staffing Source. They've basically got connected with us, I think several months ago through some introductions and referrals, and they've actually been helping us here at JobTread with our recruiting process. As you can imagine, we've been growing like crazy, and always looking to continue hiring people in a lot of different areas. So we've spent the last several months working with them, and I can attest to them being a great team, very responsive and helpful. So I was excited to be able to get them to join the JobTread marketplace and become a partner, so that they can really help all of you all with your recruiting needs, and also going to just share some education about hiring and recruiting. So without any further ado, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Paul and to Karel and let you guys give us some education here.
Okay. Well, I am Paul Sanneman, and I'm the founder of Contractor Staffing Source. I founded the company about 5 or 6 years ago. I've been doing consulting for 40 years. Makes me an old guy, right? I've worked like 1,000 more companies, all in construction. My problem was my clients couldn't find employees, so I started this company to do it. We're up to about, I think, like 22 employees. We have about 300 clients. We recruited for, I think, 200 companies, 400 people. We have any job openings for about 400 jobs at any one time. All we do is construction. So we're really familiar about all the trials and tribulations of recruiting for construction companies. We hire at any one time. I think we had to go through an average of 250 resumes to find a person last year. It was not easy. And we hire about 10 or 15 people a week. And we have about, 20,000 resumes a week. So it's sort of crazy. So that's my background. And then Karel, tell them about yourself.
So my name is Karel. My background is actually marketing, and I am the equivalent of what you would call in construction a project manager. So basically making sure that production teams are following guidelines and the clients attended to, and we're launching campaigns, and a lot of respect to all of project managers out there. I know there's a few of you right now with us. So I know some of the struggles that you go through, and now that I work with contractors, it's a lot on your plate. So and I keep learning from you guys, and I love working with contractors, some of the best, finest people there are. And I've been doing this for quite some time now, and thanks to Paul, I've turned into a successful recruiter. And I, have good insights into the job market and into what works and what doesn't work. So that's pretty much me in a nutshell.
All right. So going to the next slide. I'm sure you've all had, what is your definition of the worst employee? And at least my definition of the worst employee is someone who is not bad enough to fire or who is not good enough to keep. They're horrible, right? I mean, and I'm sure all of you've got one like that. Because the thing is, if you had somebody to replace him or her, you might do it, but you don't. And I've been a consultant for many years, and I know there's always some guy that I'm talking about. Well, there's Fred. Fred one week, Fred's awesome. Next week, Fred sucks. Next week, Fred, so it goes back and forth. And they should fire Fred, but replace Fred. So I want you to think about, and I know you've all got this person, someone who's bad enough, not bad enough to fire, good enough to keep. So these myths will keep you from doing that, because we all have that person working for us, and we have that working for us because we don't have a choice. So I'm going to go through the myths right now, the 6 myths of hiring. Now, the first one is only recruit when you need someone. That's the first one. And we work with probably 300 contractors at any given time, and that they only recruit when they need someone, like a project. Employees are expensive. I deal with that one all the time. You know what it costs? I mean, I have a joke, if there's all this gold and somebody says, you know what it costs to buy a shovel? So it's like employees are expensive. That's another myth. Another one is we can do it ourselves. I mean, how hard can it be to recruit somebody? Put an ad in Indeed, you call them 2 weeks later, they're going to love to come to work for you. It's not a problem. The next one is recruit within the construction industry. We've heard this one all the time. I'm not going to hire anybody unless they have 5 years construction experience. Don't even let me talk to them, which is not a good idea. The next one myth is hire fast and fire slow. It's actually the opposite of that. But what happens is most of you contractors are desperate, right? They got to find somebody. So the first warm body that looks good, shows up for the job site and, can drive a truck, you're in, right? So you hire fast and fire slow. And then they become the worst employee, so they stay there forever. And the last one is recruiting is a project that ends. You guys are very project oriented as a group. You start something, you do the project, you finish the project, and you are done. So that's the way a lot of contractors think recruiting. Recruiting is a project that ends. So in today's talk, we're going to go through these myths and explain why they are myths, and then end up with the truths, which will actually help you find the right person and not deal with that person you want to get rid of. So Corel, why don't you start explaining the first myth?
Absolutely. So the first myth is only recruit when you need someone. This is almost self-explanatory, and we'll get down to exactly why it's a myth. But now more than ever in this tricky job market, and that could be a webinar on its own, just the analysis of what the job market's looking like, what the outlook for construction is going to look like, how even male twisting strength in average is playing into people entering construction and the age just going up. But anyway, so let's go back to it. Only recruit when you need someone. Professional sports teams have a backup player in all positions. And, they're constantly assessing statistics. They're constantly seeing who's going to be their starter. They always have somebody that is almost as good as a backup, just to keep, everybody on their toes, everybody, making sure that they're giving their best. And that's absolutely true and for contractors. So successful contractors have a pool of multiple subcontractors in each trade. So you should never just have one technician or plumber. People can sometimes be busy, fail. So I'm sure everybody has that and knows how that works.
Also, we've noticed that you're only as good as your team. And I can't overemphasize that. As a contractor, your team is going to determine your success. And why people don't spend more time and energy building their team, I have no idea. But this whole webinar is based on you're only as good as your team.
Exactly. So that's basically how you build your company, your identity, your legacy. It's building a great team. So contractors should be as focused on building a great team as they are focused on building great projects. To achieve this, you must always be recruiting, not just when someone leaves. You must have a recruiting plan to build a successful construction company. So it's like building a house without a plan. Would you hire someone without a plan? So just to have a quick overview on this, don't hire out of desperation. Desperation is you're already too late. You're going to likely end up with somebody that you're going to have to be very lucky to have somebody that's going to stay on, surprise, and have a working relation for the next 20 years or continue your company legacy down the line. So you will end up with a bad fit. You'll get blindsided when someone leaves. And also, you'll leave yourself exposed to having just a superstar that starts asking for raises, starts blackmailing you.
Blackmail is such a bad word, Hunter. Let's not say blackmail. Let's say your project manager comes to you. He knows you're starting this giant project. He knows you can't find anybody. And he goes, gee, boss, I had a discussion with my wife last night. And I really need $5 more an hour. It's not me, it's my wife. Don't blame me. But I'm afraid I'm going to have to move on unless I get another $5 an hour. And what are you going to do? You're going to concede, right? Well, the bad news, that starts something else in the company, because if he gets $5 an hour, he talks to his friend who talks to his friend, they all work for the same guy. And it's really a bad way to give raises by blackmail, but it happens all the time in construction, especially when you don't have any backups.
Absolutely. So what you should do is hire and grow on your own terms. That means planning, action, not reaction. Be prepared with the next player on your bench and make sure they're a good fit. So Paul, how do you make sure somebody's a good fit?
Well, I mean, there's the two things. We use assessments, we profile assessments. There's a lot of things you can do to make sure a person's a good fit. There's a cultural fit, and there's also a performance fit. The cultural fit means they have the same values we do. A performance fit means they produce the job. So for example, you can have a project manager who you really love. He's an amazing guy. He's wonderful, or she's wonderful, but they never get anything done on time and on budget. It's always over budget and takes way too long, but they're an amazing person. You got somebody else who's like, he gets everything on time and on budget, but he pisses off your subcontractors. He pisses off the customers. Everybody's mad at him all the time. And everybody says, why you have that idiot working for you? So he is a performance fit, but he's not a culture fit. So the thing is, you got to have a person that's both. The person that performs well, that gets the job done on time and on budget, and also really like the guy, and so do your subcontractors and clients. They need to fit both, or they should be gone. Okay, this is the one I'm going to cover next. Employees are expensive. I hear that all the time. Like, we charge whatever, a couple $1,000, and people go, we can't afford you. You're so expensive. I go, you know what it costs to have a bad employee? That's like really expensive. Also, the myth that more employees I have, the more over I have, the more I need work. The reality is, the more employees you have, the less you will work and the more money you will make. That's what I found to be true. My clients, I'm doing this for God knows 40 years, the ones that work the least and make the most have the most employees. The ones that work the most and make the least are two guys in a truck. There's a guy and he has 2 or 3 people working for them. He's the 80-hour work week making $60,000 a year take home. You do not want to be that guy. Next slide. So employees are worthy investment, right? I mean, you need to delegate and elevate everyone. You can't do this without a talented team. You increase your capacity for projects by creating bandwidth for your employee and supporting that growth. The most valuable asset you have is your employees. I mean, so if you look at, I've been with contractors for 4 years. I got no problem. If I ask him to buy a new truck, done. Ask him to buy software, as you know, Eric, that might be a maybe because it's software. Ask him to buy, stuff, he's good. Ask him to invest in recruitment or marketing or software, not so easy. Because he goes, well, I don't see the ROI. I will tell you, there's the ROI on a good employee or software, anything like that, is 10 times anything you're going to do in the stock market or real estate or anything else, because that's the best investment you're ever going to make, is finding that quality person. That'll be hard to find, but there's nothing that's going to make you more than a quality employee. And when you're in construction, there's only 2 major problems: not enough good clients and not enough good employees. You solve those both, construction's easy. If you don't have enough good clients, it sucks. And if you have bad talent or bad employees, it's also difficult. So there's no more worthy investment than a quality employee. And don't chintz out, don't, they attract better clients, you achieve better subcontractors, they improve your operations. They're just the best investment you're going to make. So make sure that if other thing is market value. A lot of times what will happen is people will, they won't keep up with wages, right? So their current project manager's making, I can tell you, a project manager, I can get one in middle of Arkansas for $60,000 a year. The same guy in San Francisco is $160,000 a year. Really depends on where you are. So what happens is you end up, your current employees, let's say you're paying your project manager, pick a number, like $80,000 a year. Then you go out to look for a new one. The market is now $90,000 a year in Portland or wherever you are. And you go, well, I can't pay him more and I'm paying the guy I pay now. But if you don't pay that money, you're never going to get the guy. So then you go, what do I do now? Well, you actually have to keep your current employees at market rate, because one, if you don't keep it, they're going to leave and go work for somebody else. And it's too late once they quit. Resurrection is way harder than birth, trust me. So once they quit, you're done. Or you're going to like put an offer out there that we can't fill because you're below market. So there's no better investment in employees. They do all these good things. So when you're thinking of spending money, the best thing you can do is spend it on your good employees. Okay, Corral, the next myth.
Absolutely. So the next myth is we can do it ourselves. And this is something that everybody believes when they're out to hire somebody. They say, nobody knows the tasks better than myself, so only myself can measure this. So, but remember, you're only as good as your team. So successful contractors stick to their strengths, which is managing projects, attracting clients, and they outsource things like marketing specialists, web design, CPAs, bookkeeper. On some of the more advanced, you have people that build out funnels, because you don't know how to do that, right? You wouldn't know where to start. Why not take the same approach to recruiting? Just like plumbing or electrical, recruiting is a specialized trade that can be contracted out so that you're free to do what you do best. So recruiting is a complex process that requires a specialized skill set and expertise that contractors don't have. Successful recruiting really is a full-time job, and believe me, it takes time. I don't know if you guys have been in the grind of interviewing, looking at resumes.
Well, as an example, we have to go through 200 resumes on the average to find somebody that's qualified. That takes a lot of time. We have like 22 people working for us, and a lot of them spend all day just going through resumes and screening people. And we try to get back to people within hours, not days. So, you know, it's really hard to do it yourself. It sounds like a good idea, but the problem is your most important thing is building a team, and you're willing to spend the least amount of time and energy putting it together, which may not be a great decision.
Definitely. And a lot of people get frustrated midway through, and they're just like, okay, the next guy that just doesn't piss me off how he holds his coffee mug, hire him. And you don't want to do that. So a successful recruiting process must be done daily. If you want to have an office admin do recruiting one day out of week, the program will fail, especially in today's competitive job market where there's one candidate for every 3 or 4 open positions. You must respond in minutes, not days. Also, superstars, they're going to have 5, 6 perhaps offers currently, and they'll stretch the time so that they can be in the driving seat, and they will be in the driving seat. So you want to make a compelling offer as soon as possible once you know that person is the right guy.
Right. We spend a lot of our time selling our our potential and candidates to work for the employer, because this guy's great. When we work for them, they're amazing, and we could probably do a better job of selling you than you can do of selling you. But it's a sales job. You know, you're not the only guy out there. There's a lot of people looking for, especially the guy you really want. He's got 3 job offers. So you have to sell him as much as he has to sell you, at least in this market. So my suggestion is, whether it's us or somebody else, you can outsource that, because it's way worth the money you're going to pay to get quality people. And trust me, I've done this one. Most of you guys suck. No offense at recruiting. It's not your skill, right? It's not like you're really good at it. And if you look at your current team, my friend knew somebody, or I had a friend here, or this together, but you've also got that world's worst employee, when you want to get rid of, but can't. So, you don't have a problem hiring an electrician, hiring a plumber, hiring an accountant, even somebody to fix your car, unless you really like doing it. But somehow people have this myth that, I just put an ad in the paper, I get 20 guys to show up, I pick the best one, I'm done. Well, your team is probably a reflection of the quality of your recruiting process. So I think you should spend a little investment in, outsourcing, because it's a better way to go.
I'll just chime in here and, share again, exactly what you're talking about. Alex, who is our chief operating officer, he was literally having to spend all day, every day, going through, resume after resume, and he wasn't able to really focus on everything else that, we expect him to do. And, ever since you guys have started helping us with all this recruiting and going through that, we've been way more responsive to candidates, and Alex has gotten just almost all of his time back, so that he's not having to just sit there and go through tons and tons of applicants for all these different positions we're trying to hire. It's been a tremendous weight off of his shoulders. And, at the end of the day, we're more responsive and he can focus on doing his day-to-day job instead of having to, manage this pipeline every day.
Right. And no offense, we're better at it than Alex. No offense. And so that's what we do. So if you want to do yourself, if you're going to want to start a recruiting company or do it yourself, these are some things you should do. Okay. So one is you need to write a job ad, right? Now, ChatGPT, my new best friend, that helps, right? You can go write me a job ad for a project manager. Boom, it actually does a better job than you're going to do. But so that, language models have made it a little easier, but you got to write a great job ad because you got to attract the right person. Most people write really boring job ads. And you're trying to, again, attract the right person. It's like asking, a person that doesn't marketing your marketing. You got to write a great job ad. Then you have to post that ad on several job boards, right, Carell? I think we posted on 288 job boards, plus LinkedIn, plus Facebook, plus ZipRecruiter, plus we searched in LinkedIn's database. We search all the other databases because they're a recruiter. And, you got to put it everywhere. And if you can't, post it up in the local, hardware store or whatever that's looking for somebody. Ask all your friends, ask your employees, really get into it. One ad in Indeed does not qualify as a good job. You've got to post it everywhere. All right. That's important. And then I'm going to jump on the next one. Respond to applicants as soon as possible. We had this project we did for a framing contractor. We hired, I think, 160 framers, and it took us like 2.5 months. But everything was in Spanish. Nothing was in English. We did it with stuff on Facebook. And literally, when somebody responded, we were back to them within a minute or two. Because we have so we had people literally all over the world responding, so we could do it 24/7. So if somebody said they were interested, we got back to them within 5 minutes. That's how we pulled it off. So in worst case, it should be an hour or two. A week, I'm sorry, doesn't even qualify. So that's because all the good people are gone. The people you get in a week sort of suck. They're not really good. And so you don't want anybody that's going to, be around 2 weeks after you put the ad in, because there's a reason he doesn't have a job. Okay. Talk about the next one, Carell.
Absolutely. So as we go through this list, you guys are getting a grasp on how many steps and how much time this consumes. So initial phone screening or video interview. So this takes some time. A lot of times we will go ahead and, we'll reach out to people, let them know that we're sending an assessment, or that, one of our clients is interested. And, we set expectation and tone for the following steps, because you want to keep them in the loop as much as possible. Next, detailed skills and behavioral assessment. So this goes hand in hand with just making sure that you have a great fit. So, we have some proprietary,
we have 40, we have 40 different assessments, plus probably more than that now. And I know some of Eric's team has taken some of these, right? So we have assessments. I'll know more about you than your mom if you'll take this stuff. But the thing is, and the assessments are different, for obviously you're doing a carpenter, it's different than a project manager. We have assessments that have been figured out. They're predictive because we know people are taking them and succeeded, people are taking them and failed. So we can pretty much tell, that's why we have a 90% success of happy people working out, is we really do a huge job of assessing the person even before you talk to them. Now, the good news is, if you come to this webinar, just to show you how it works, I'm willing to give anybody this webinar the assessments they want, if they got something to look at, assess their team. We have a lot of assessments. So if you've attended this webinar, just put your name in the chat. You can, contact me, which our information's here. And I will show you all the assessments that we have. And you can use whatever you want. I won't charge you for it. Just so you can see how assessments work, right? Eric, you've had used some of these, right? So I think it's really important, because a lot of people don't even know what an assessment is, and they don't take the time to truly find out, is this person going to work or not? The technology is there to find out predictively whether the person is going to work or not, and it's all an assessment. So we'll do this for you, but they're doing a good job. Exactly.
And the next step is, in-person or Zoom interviews and plus. So there's a lot of stuff that you can do, but it does take time, and you want to make sure that you have somebody that you think is going to work out in your office for an in-person interview. That's what the behavioral assessments are for, and the sort of the pre-screenings for. And, you know, if you want to take things a step further, something that I learned from, I actually call it the Ken Sheldon assessment, because great guy in Denver, I learned from you guys. So he literally, his last interview is picking somebody up in his truck, going to a job site, interacting with the client and the team, and then dropping him back off at his home. So he says, I can learn so much from somebody just by sitting through, you know, a car drive. And then how he interacts with my team, how he interacts with clients. So, you know, if you're thinking of a superintendent, a project manager, a salesperson, even an estimator. So those are all positions that you could try these techniques.
Yeah, it's also important to do background checks. And most of you know what background checks are. I have true story. I have a client, we may name at the moment, who hired a bookkeeper and got embezzled. I think 20% of construction companies get embezzled. It's not that uncommon. So, you know, this is the funny story. So he decided to hire another bookkeeper. He did not do a background check. The new bookkeeper hired was fired for embezzling the last company she worked for. So the second time he got embezzled, the DA said, I'm sorry, dude. I mean, I can't even prosecute this person. If you're going to hire somebody that embezzled already, we're done. So it sounds obvious. You need to do background checks because you never know about the person. Call the references, check the references. We do that, make a competitive job offer. And there's also something called onboarding. You should have a plan. ChatGPT can help you do this, but we do it for all our clients. Onboard the person because you don't want them to quit in 3 weeks because they didn't like it. So you got to have a plan. How do you onboard the assessment? You got to do that. Let's see. Somebody's, I think Bradley's interested in the assessments. Yeah, we can give, all you have to do is go to our website, which is contractorstaffingsource.com, and contact me, Paul Sandeman, and I'll give you all the assessments you want to show you how they work. Or you can go to the marketplace and do it that way. So ensure a successful onboarding experience because you're selling them as well as they're selling you, okay? It's important that you know, it's like a marriage, you know, hello, let's get married, let's have a kid. You know, you can't do that. It takes a while, right? You don't get married on your first date. So it's important that you have a sexual onboarding process. If you want to do all this stuff yourself and you have the time and personnel to do it, hey, go for it, guys. My experience, I've been doing this for many, many years, is this is unless you're big enough where you've got 30, 40, 50 employees, you got a full-time HR person, you just don't do this stuff. And you pay the consequences of having the worst employee, which we discussed earlier, right? Moving along. Next slide.
Absolutely.
You must recruit within the construction industry. We have this argument literally all the time with our clients. The first thing they say is, well, my office manager has to have construction experience. And I go, why? Well, because they can't do the job without it. There's a lot of evidence that shows who people are is way more important than what they know. You can teach people stuff, but you can't teach who they are. You can't teach integrity. Our assessment does a lot of this. Are they honest? Do they tell the truth? You know, what kind of person are they, or a good culture fit? Because you can't fix that stuff. That's who they are, and you can't fix it. So who they are is way important than what they know. So we did something in hospitality. I'll give you an example. Next slide. So it was interesting. We recruited a wedding planner. You think now, a wedding planner? Come on. Well, think about it. A wedding planner has to get a bunch of, no offense, sort of flaky group together, the band, the flower person, the caterer, all those people that tend to be not the most reliable people in the world. They need to get them to the wedding on time. The wedding has to be awesome and everybody has to be happy, and they pay a lot of money for it, right? Well, that's the construction industry, right? You got a bunch of people that are all not that dependable sometimes. They got to be at the right place at the right time, and it all has to look good, and everybody has to be happy. So people choose to do this. So we've hired several wedding planners to be office managers, to be, you know, construction coordinators, and they just kill it because they're really good at it. You can teach them about construction. That takes like 3 weeks. But to teach them how to make people happy and how to coordinate all these somewhat flaky people and stay on top of them, that's the talent they've already got. We also hired a hotel manager who's managing I think 12 hotels or something. And we put him in as a manager of a construction company. He just killed it because you can learn construction. I mean, no offense, guys, it takes just a skill set to learn construction and the terms and that kind of thing. So if you recruit, you can put construction preferred, but never in an ad. I wouldn't put mandatory construction, or I'm not even going to talk to you, because you're going to turn away a lot of talent that I think you should look at for sure. So again, ability, attitude is more important. You can train for skills. You can't train for ability and attitude. There's no way to know more important than what they know. Again, and training is key to the approach. We've trained a lot of people to learn about construction. And I can say we've hired a significant amount of people that did not have construction expertise and just killed it because they were the right people for the job. In fact, there's some companies, like big construction companies, don't want to hire people with construction background because they're going to learn it the wrong way. One of the guys, for example, if you've got some guy who's maybe 65, he still uses a yellow pad, doesn't believe in computers, and he wants to manage a project, I'll take the young guy who knows computers, doesn't have much experience in construction, but is really easy to teach. Because the old guy, you can't teach him anything because he already knows everything. And it's like resurrection. You can't say, I'm sure you have a software company, right, Eric? I'm sure you've run into some older gentleman who thinks, I don't need the software. I've been building houses for 20 years without it. I don't need the software, right, Eric?
Oh, I've heard that.
Right. So if you want somebody that is teachable, wants to learn your stuff, don't hire people that are so stuck in their ways, they're not going to conform to the systems you're using, even the software. Okay. Okay, Karel, you're on.
Absolutely. So the next myth is hire fast, fire slow. So it should be actually the other way around. And here are the dangers of hiring fast. So desperation leads to impulse, or to reacting instead of acting. Impulse leads to hiring somebody that's going to be a bad fit. Fixing bad fits means more time in the long run, and sometimes it's not going to be enough to salvage a situation, which in the words of my good friend Master Yoda, leads to the dark side. So the average hiring mistake costs 15 times an employee's salary in hard costs and productivity loss. So $100,000 employee equals 1.5 million in costs.
Sometimes those are hidden costs. They're hard to see. Like that, the employee, the worst employee, not bad enough to fire, good enough to keep. They cost a fortune, but it's hard to see it because it's not really evident. But not getting a project done on time, upsetting a client, getting a subcontractor is going to quit because I hate you now because of your guy. All that is incredibly expensive, but it's hidden costs. You don't see it right away. But I'm telling you, if let's say you're doing, 2 million and making 200,000 a year, which you should be, that can cost you 100,000 if it's just one bad employee. There goes half your income. So it's important that you don't hire fast and fire slow. It's Carl said, one of the most important decisions you're going to make is who you hire and what clients you choose to work with. Back to what I said earlier, if you have great clients, great employees, and good software for you, Eric, this is an easy profession. If you have clients that are difficult, employees that do what they're supposed to do, and your software sucks, it's not good. It makes life very difficult. So much to San Luis Obispo. I'm going to Cal Poly, San Luis Obispo. So I'm San Luis Obispo, my home stomping ground there. Okay.
The dangers of firing slow it's horrible for morale in general. So nothing will kill a great employee faster than watching you tolerate a bad one. And we've all been there. We've all seen the boss, show patience to somebody in particular, and it's disheartening. And sometimes we suffer from doing the same as business owners, and that's not great practice for the rest of the team. And sometimes you do it out of necessity. Again, it all just ties in. So you're losing time and you're losing money. Employers put up with the economic pain of a bad employee because they don't want the emotional pain of firing them, or also they don't want to deal with hiring somebody new.
Right. I mean, think about it. If you had a killer employee who's better than the one you have in any position, how long would it take you to get rid of the one you have? And I've seen in construction projects, you know, everybody's supposed to be there 10 minutes before the job starts. Somebody shows up and he's always 15 minutes late and nothing happens. Everybody's gonna be 15 minutes late. We're good. It's the new rules, right? People leave early. This guy leaves early. We're good. We're all gonna leave early. And it just kills your corporate values, because your corporate values go by what people see, not what you say. So, I mean, I had an example, you know, let's say tell your son to go to bed at, 9 o'clock. And then you yell at him a couple of times, and finally, turn the lights off and you put him in bed at 10 o'clock. What's your son's bedtime? It's 10 o'clock. He knows it. He figured it out. And so whatever any employee gets by with, the rest of them are going to figure they get by with it too, because that's the new standard. So it's hard to say what's that worth, but it is a lot of pain and a lot of economic, bad things if you have these employees that are not that great.
So again, don't hire fast. Instead, engage quickly, but take your time to vet your candidates. If possible, don't settle. Don't settle for the first. Don't settle for just good enough. If you can, hold out for somebody that you're really going to be proud of to bring on and have a great relation with.
Well, as a recruiting company, I'll tell you a good client, a client that's going to be difficult lives in Portland looking for a carpenter. They're starting this huge project. They need 3 carpenters tomorrow. We got to find one right away. It's a problem, right? Like, duh, you should have looked 3 months ago. On the average, it'll take us, we can find a warm body in a week, but you don't want a warm body. To find a quality person takes a month or 2. So when you think you're going to need somebody, like a month down the road, 2 months down the road, start looking, because the real people, they don't hire slow is because they can't. They started a new project. Their guy just quit. They need somebody yesterday. They got a project they didn't expect, whatever. And they're either, heads gun at the head. So they have to hire fast or they're done. And they don't have time to hire slow. And you can anticipate this. Like, that's why you should always be recruiting. That's a whole other story.
So fire fast. Don't tolerate a bad employee. Your worst employee, again, is somebody who's not bad enough to fire, but not good enough to keep. Employees are like marriage, easy to get married, harder and more painful to get divorced.
And I don't want to say how many guys have been there, but I'm sure you're all, maybe if you've been there, it's it's a challenge, right? So and the other thing is, I have a rule of thumb, and you may laugh at this one. If you started your company over, let's say forever, you had to shut it down and start it over, and the question is, of all the employees that work for you, who would you hire back? In my opinion, anybody you would hire, you wouldn't hire back, you should fire. But the reason you don't fire them is you haven't got anybody to replace them, because you haven't been doing the right recruiting. So you just tolerate them and you live in purgatory, but that's your choice.
So it is much easier to fire a poor performer if you have somebody on your bench ready to take their place. A cultural misfit is worse than a skills misfit. You need a good pre-hire assessment to determine if they're going to be a good fit with company culture. And there's so many nuances to that. One of my clients' favorite activities is actually doing side-to-side comparative analysis based on somebody's communication skills, people skills, sales, and what sales skills they have. Are they closers? Are they prospectors? Maybe you need a hunter, somebody that will bring in leads because you're the closer, or you need somebody that's going to be an all-rounder, or a sales and marketing manager to put on, as head of your sales team. So there's a lot of different things that we can see and compare in those charts, just to make sure, and we get to that granular level on the assessments. So always making sure that you're getting a good fit.
Right. 95% of our people work out, and I think on the national average, I'm like 50%. And the reason is we're 95%. We do all this pre-assessment. We do a whole bunch of stuff to make sure you don't hire the wrong guy or lady. All right.
I'm going to let you talk about this.
Well, there's a no rule. Was it no rules Netflix? This is the guy, Reed Hastings, who started Netflix, and obviously Netflix has done well. It comes from a company is a team, not a family. Teams demand excellence. Every position is filled by the best person in one time. Train and play to win. Continuous feedback from the coach on how they game. Effort is not enough. Low performance are replaced. So on that, it's like a team, right? You want everybody to be really good. And the way he built his company is he goes, if you're not good, we'll find somebody who is. And in his kind of company, it sets a standard. So everybody's really good at what they do, and they realize that's the kind of company they work for. And if they're not, they'll go work for somebody else. One of the examples I have is, Elon Musk is a really smart guy, but there's a lot of guys that smart at him. They're professors at MIT. The reason he's who he is he's great at building teams. That is his strength. His strength isn't his intelligence is way up there, but his ability to build teams has made him what he is today. It isn't necessarily his intelligence. Okay, moving along. So next slide. I'm going to go to the sixth one here, okay? This is the one I fight with contractors all the time because it's their nature. For construction company, it's natural to treat everything like a project. That's the way your world works, right? It's you start, I need a project manager. Go find me a project manager. Let's go through this process. We go through assessment, we find a project manager. Great. We hire the project manager. Boom, I'm done. I'm moving on, right? It doesn't, fortunately, a lot of people make it work that way. We have a lot of companies we work for and they turn us on and off like a switch, right? We recruit for them, they hire somebody. I have not been successful at convincing a lot of people to recruit. I would say out of our 300 clients, we maybe have, 50 or 60 to recruit all the time. But that's the best thing to do, because if you recruit all the time, you're never left with all those things we left earlier, because you're always looking for people building a bench. But unfortunately, contractors have this mentality that says, I'm going to find my project manager and I'm done. And the truth is there's always always a place for the right person, right? So an example would be, I don't need a project manager, but if you go to the next slide, be open to the possibilities, right? Let's say a guy comes along and he's your competitor's project manager. For whatever reason, he doesn't want to work for your competitor anymore. He doesn't like him. He treated him poorly, whatever it is. He's looking for a job. He's coming with a bunch of architects he knows really well that give him work. He's coming with a whole bunch of subcontractors that love him. He's like a built-in company, right? He's got all the subcontractors and all the connections to do, to get great work. You're going to hire this guy. Even if you're not looking for somebody, you're going to hire this guy, right? Because he comes with work and he comes with the people to do it. So you never know when that guy is out there. And I've had literally circumstances where somebody's not recruiting and they learn from a friend of theirs, oh yeah, I just got John Smith. He's like the killer guy for ABC Construction. He brought me a ton of work. He brought me a ton of subcontractors. He's amazing. And how come you didn't hire him? Because he didn't know you're looking, right? So you got to have your line in the water all the time, because you never know when those people are looking. And it's a small price to pay to build an awesome team. So again, always be marketing, always be recruiting. Okay, so you use the same employees for marketing as you for strategy. If you don't stop marketing because you get a project. I can't tell you many contractors I work with. They have this they like a sine wave. They do things at the bottom of the sine wave that get them work and get them good people. Once they get successful, they stop doing the stuff that got them successful and they crash again, right? They go up and down, up and down. They blame the economy. It's most contractors, you have such a small fraction of the potential work out there. It's like 0.001% of the work in your market. You're not subject to that. It's because you haven't been marketing effectively and creating demand for your work, and you haven't been recruiting effectively and creating the right team. If you market all the time and find awesome work, it's a supply demand issue. The more demand you have, you create your demand by marketing. And the same thing with recruiting. You recruit all the time and you create a good team. That's what you need to do on a regular basis. Next slide. So I'm going to go back through now. We got abundant possibilities. Again, we talked about it earlier. You need to modify the staff structure to find the right people. Okay. So I'd like to recap. on, we're going to call next slide, the 6 hiring realities. All right. This is in our opinion, after doing this many years, me being in the business 40 years, working with thousands of contractors. I believe these are the hiring realities. 1, always be recruiting. It's a small expense to build an awesome team. It isn't a switch you turn on and off. It's something you look at like marketing or accounting or your software. It's something you do on a regular basis to assure you're always going to have people that want to work for you on a regular basis. Number 2, employees are worthy investments. There's no way you're going to spend better money than on an employee. Nothing's going to return your ROI as well as a good employee. They're the best investments you're ever going to make. Number 3, outsource your recruiting. Trust me, guys and ladies, you can't do it as well yourself. Don't do your own plumbing. Don't do your own electrical. Don't fix your own car. Don't work on your own computer. And don't do your own recruiting. Have somebody with us or somebody else. Get somebody who's really good at it. It does a great job. They can deliver it for you so you can have somebody who's really good at it, provide the right people. Number 4, find exceptional talent outside the construction industry. When you write an ad, put construction experience preferred but not necessary. That's really going to open the amount of people that are going to apply to you. And if you're looking for who, the right person, not necessarily what they know. So don't look outside the construction industry. Number 5, hire slow and fire fast. If a person's the wrong person, get rid of them. They're the bad apple spoils the rest. Really bad. They cost you much more than they think you do. And hire slow. To hire slow, you have to always be recruiting. Right? So you got to have a bench in order to hire slow, so you're not desperate all the time. And number 6, unlike a project recruiting is a process. Again, marketing, recruiting, accounting, so they're on training, they're ongoing stuff. You don't stop and start them. They're not a project. So those are the things that we covered. All right. Now, I guess we're going to go, if you want, I'll give any of you out there who come to this webinar all the assessments you want just to show how they work. We've got assessments for pretty much every position. They're really good. And just click on this link and we'll give you an assessments. I'll talk to you about what assessments you need and that kind of thing and figure out, we'll assess your whole team. I do assess your team. We've got ways to help people work together by showing you a disc profile, kind of people they are, or you can contact the JobTread Marketplace. But I'm offering our services because if we help you do it, some of you are going to do it yourself, but admittedly, some are going to go, wait, this is too much work. You can do it for us. I mean, that's my, objective. But I'm certainly willing to show you how to do it yourself. No problem. Okay. I guess, Eric, now we go into questions.
Yeah, appreciate that, Paul. That was and Carol, it was awesome content presentation. I mean, lots of people in the chat saying, hey, is this going to be recorded? Can I watch this a couple times? So definitely lots of really valuable insight there that you've shared with us today. Appreciate that. Yeah, let's open it up. I mean, if anyone in the chat there wants to ask any questions or any follow-up here, then happy to answer those. And in the meantime too, just like Paul said, so Contractor Staffing Source is a new marketplace partner for us on JobTread. You can reach out to them there. They're offering additional specials and benefits that are going to be made available just to JobTread customers. So you'll definitely want to reach out to them from the marketplace. Get connected with Paul and his team. And like I said, they've done a great job for us. We're excited to continue working with them, for JobTread's needs, but hope to see you all as well be able to grow your teams, because it's a thing that I hear all the time is that people are struggling to build a great team. And again, that's the number one thing like that you can do is build an awesome team. That's how you build a great company. That's how you deliver great products and services for your customers. That is the number one thing. The best advice I could give as well is make sure that you build a great team. And I think that's every business owner's primary responsibility is make sure you get the right people on the bus and the wrong people off the bus. And then you can figure it out together. But it's all about creating an awesome team.
Also, just so we know, we just work in the construction industry. So as I talked about, those are all contractors between 2 million and 100 million. So we work in every market in the US and Canada. So we know what people cost. We know where to find them. It took us 4 or 5 years to get here, but I think we're now really, really good at what we do. And we can find the people you want or show you how to do it yourself if you want to do that. But I think you're only as good as your team. I can't emphasize that. So if you need help building a winning team, that's what we do.
So Paul, looks like Stephanie here has asked, what exactly is included in these assessments? Can you maybe talk a little bit more about the structure? Because I know you got a couple different types of them, or a lot of different types.
Well, we have assessments that are personality type assessments. We have IQ assessments. I don't have to show you one here, but there's like 145 different parameters. I know Eric's seen it. A lot of them are about you and your mom. Everything, about what you do well, what you don't do well, what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are. It's a full psychological in-depth thing that covers emotional aptitude, as well as intellectual aptitude, as well as skill stuff. So it really depends entirely on the thing. But if you get a hold of us, I can show you. We got 40 different assessments, probably more than that actually, depending on the position. But we'll find out everything you need to know to hire the right person.
And they're varying kind of lengths, right? I mean, like some of them take, 5, 10, 15 minutes. Some of them might be a little bit more in depth, take a little bit longer. So
yeah, they vary from, 10 minutes to an hour and 10 minutes, right? Depending on the position. If you're hiring a project manager, it's a lot more complicated than if you're hiring a carpenter. Yeah. We also do video interviews for everything too.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. I think that's a really unique thing as well, as being able to capture, the applicant, being able to kind of record and communicate. You can learn a lot about them from video, and I love how you guys get them to answer a couple questions on video, and that lets us, very quickly kind of just hear from that candidate before having to agree to do the scheduled interview with them.
Well, yeah, because certain questions you cannot ask, how old you are, but on a video interview, you can find out a lot about a person just by watching the interview, seeing who they are, what they look like, and you can find out all those things you can't actually ask legally.
Yeah.
Okay. So again, I encourage you all to get a hold of us. You can, go to contractorstaffingsource.com and just click, get a hold of me, and I'll be happy to. And if you also mention for me, if you went to this webinar, if you can do it, next couple hours, or I will give you all this stuff, because as a partner with Eric, we're trying to help his contractors succeed at building winning teams. Whether they do it themselves or have us do it. I mean, the reason I do this stuff is sometimes when the people find out it's so complicated, they have us do it. Other than do it yourself, I'll show you how to do it. Okay.
Awesome. Any last questions, guys, before we hop out of here? Right at the top of the hour coming up.
Okay. So again, contact us either through the marketplace or contractorstaffingsource.com. And just click on the thing, and I'll be happy to spend, an hour with you going through what I know, and take all the stuff we've talked about, and I'll show you how you apply it individually to your company. And yep. I'll actually, you'll get a hold of me, right? So,
yep. So we will. Everyone asking, yes, we will have this webinar recorded. It's going to be in the help desk on the webinars tab. Hopefully, probably at some point tomorrow, we'll be able to get it up. And, we'll put it on our YouTube and things like that as well. So, thank you all for tuning in today.
Yeah, I appreciate you. I know time is really valuable. Time's the most valuable asset you've got. So I appreciate us giving us an hour.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you, Paul and Carell, for, very thoughtful, insightful presentation. We appreciate you taking the time to share that with all of our customers, and, look forward to seeing the awesome teams that you're going to help them all build.
I'm excited about that. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Eric. I appreciate it.
All righty. Have a good one, everyone.